Now Probert
got the right hand free. He's loose with the right hand, and he starts to retaliate, and down goes Nyland, and the two of them are hammering each other.
Knights of Columbus, that hurt.
It's old-time hockey, the way you're supposed to play. You throw a little lumber if a guy gets in your way. You play like Gordie Howe or Eddie fucking Shore. We can't all be Gretzky's, the Muse or Bobby Orr.
The enforcer of all hockey podcasts. It's the Biscuit. It's the Biscuit.
Damn it! Set goal regulation size of what?
The enforcer of all hockey podcasts.
God help the fucking day if fighting's ever banned. As our country will stop working on Sabatmas fucking cans.
Hi everybody, it's the Biscuit Podcast.
Hey, you wanna go? Yeah, okay. Good luck, man. Good luck to you too, buddy.
All right, Biscuit Babies, I'm here with Kavan Young from the Hockey Writers. He covers the Montreal Canadiens, the Habs, and that's what we're here to do, talk Habs hockey. How are you, Kavan?
Good, thanks. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, bud. Pretty good. 47-26-9. Their third Atlantic title in 5 years, and get ousted by the Rangers in the first round. What the hell?
Scoring, man. It's the name of the NHL anymore. It seems to be scoring. It's tough to find, and we lost it. I mean, a lot of it goes to, you got to give credit to Henrik Lundqvist. The man just outplayed the rest of the Canadiens. So
that was my key to that series. Whichever of those beast goalies was gonna out beast the other one, there was not much that could happen besides that.
Yeah, everybody kind of knew it was going to be a low-scoring series going in, and you pretty much nailed it. The key to that series was definitely goaltending. The Rangers and Canadiens play a really similar style. They bank heavily on their goaltenders and defense. So, Lundqvist just came up big when it mattered. Yeah,
he sure did. So it's the biggest, second biggest, first biggest market in hockey. You guys in Toronto. And you miss the playoffs and you get out in the first round. We bring in, it'll be Claude Julien's first full season. I like that pickup. What do you think of old Claude?
I think that's a great move by the Canadiens. I mean, as soon as the rumors were starting about Therrien and Julien was out there, I mean, people started piecing it together. And then, whenever he was brought in, I thought it made a lot of sense. There were a lot of teams looking at him. So, when you got 4, 5, 6, 7 teams looking at the same guy, it means, he's got something to bring to the table. Julien's familiar with the Canadiens organization. So,
right.
And I like his style too. He focuses a lot on the right things, and he gets the best out of his players. I think he's going to be really good for players like Alex Galchenyuk, Jonathan Drouin, even Philip Deneau, the young centerman. He's worked with Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci for the last however many years, so he knows how to get the best out of a centerman. I think that's really going to help.
That's gonna have to be key. You had mentioned, scoring is the name of the game. With Drouin coming in, that really helps because that dude can easily put up 30 goals if he needs to, and that's practically what he's going to have to do is come in and score in truckloads.
Yeah, I like the Drouin addition for sure. It was tough to see Sergachev go. He's got to be one of the top 5 defense prospects in the NHL right now, but at the same time, like you said, Drouin is capable of 30 goals easy, and he's still only 22. So
right.
That's really positive. It hurts to lose Alex Radulov. I feel like the addition of Drouin kind of offsets the loss of Radulov. But that's a dagger, man. Radulov going to Dallas, that's a brutal loss. Yeah, it really seemed like he and the city of Montreal had a great relationship. He loved it there. They loved him. He's a fan favorite, And then all signs pointed to a return. And then, next thing you know, you're hitting 1 speed bump, 2 speed bumps. And then all of a sudden he's in Dallas. And it's like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah. It seemed, from everything I was reading, it was like, okay, well, he's just going to re-sign. And then, literally, the next day is like, oh, he's gone. I was like, well, okay, I guess like you said, there's a couple speed bumps in there, and Dallas was giving him what he wanted.
Yeah, and I think the big problem too is the provincial tax in Quebec. For Montreal to have matched what Dallas offered, I think his salary cap would have ended up the cap hit would have ended up being something like $8.1 million, just so that Radulov would end up with the same amount of dollars. So
okay.
That was probably a big part of it.
That's probably something that goes unnoticed between American fans, that there is that difference in currency. So players signing there and here, or if they go to Florida, there's no income tax, so that's an incentive for a lot of players to go there as well. But those things do come into play. This is their job, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, a lot of fans overlook that sometimes, and then they say, they're greedy, it's all about their money. But, these guys' careers, they don't last forever, right? They play 10, 12 years and then that's it. So
yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly, right, if you're lucky. So it makes sense that, they want to get the most money that they can. It's hard to blame them. And, like I said, it's tough to see Radulov end up down south, but can't really blame the guy,
No, you can't. If you can go get the money, go get it. If I could go make that much money, I'd do it,
Amen, brother. Yesterday.
I'm really happy to actually see Jonathan Drouin get out of Tampa. He grew up a lot, but I think it's going to be a better fit for him, I think, mentally and stylistically for him to go to Montreal. It would have been scary to get him during all that, his brat phase, but he really, grew up a lot last season, and it's going to be he's 22. He's going to be one hell of a hockey player.
Yeah, for sure. And the big thing with Drouin, like you said, with the maturity thing is, I think the thing with Drouin is that he knows that he's a good player, and he wasn't seeing the ice time that he wanted.
Right.
Of course, he's still a young guy. He hadn't really proven anything in the league, but in Montreal, the big difference between Tampa is he's going to have all the playing time he can get. He's going to play a top six one way or the other. He'll get more ice time. He'll have more responsibility. A lot more time on the power play too will help. It's hard to find power play time in Tampa with all their snipers.
Right.
So I think he'll slot in nicely in the power play, and could see him really grow it this year, as early as this year.
Of course. Do you think he finds his way up on that top line?
It really depends, I think, on chemistry. When I look at my potential line combos for next year, I think it's good for them to stick with kind of what they had at the end of last season. So I've got my first line is Pacioretty, Deno, and Brendan Gallagher on the top line. I know Radulov was there last year.
Yeah.
And I've got Drouin with Galchenyuk and Lehkonen on that second line. I think the second line can be really, really deadly offensively.
Yeah, dude, that second line's that's not too hateful there. With I think that second line has the potential to do some damage.
Yeah, I think Arturi Lehkonen is really one of the underrated young guys around the league. He and Drouin are actually the same age, 22 years old. He had, 18 goals, I think, last year, playing not even 12, 13 minutes a game. So a little bit more, same as Drouin, a little bit more ice time, a little bit more responsibility. Now that he's got that year under his belt, he kind of showed what he can do. I think he'll see some more ice, and I think he's going to be a really nice addition to the top six.
So, we've mentioned Radulov leaving. Markov goes back to the KHL. With the additions they've put on D, I don't think that's going to be as big of a deal as I think that a lot of hockey writers and analysts are making that. With Alsner coming in and Schlenko, I think their defense really isn't too shabby. Especially, all said and done, you have to get through Carey Price anyhow.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot has been made about the Canadiens' defense this year, but I think it's mostly just kind of shock and awe. There's been a lot of turnover. Even from 3 years ago, Jeff Petrie is the only defenseman with the organization still from 3 years ago. So they've seen a lot of turnover, and it's kind of hard to piece it together. But like you said with Carl Alsner, I think he's an underrated guy. I think he's really solid. The only real issue is the lack of puck movement. So We've got all these guys that we were talking about, Druid, Galchenyuk, Lehkonen, that can put the puck in the net, but getting it to them in the neutral zone from the back end may be an issue. So I think that's why they brought in, Mark Streit for here and there. Another guy I think isn't really getting enough of attention as he should is Jacob Jerabek, the kid they signed from the KHL. I personally, I'm not gonna say I'm an expert on the kid. I just started looking into him when they signed him, but I was watching video and he looks like he's going to be a solid offensive defenseman. He likes to step up in the play. He seems to be the power play quarterback for whatever team it is he's playing. And he's played with a lot of guys who have played in the NHL recently. So, I mean, there's guys like Yaroslav Spacek he played with in 2012.
Okay.
Maxim Afenagenov, Alexei Semenov, Frantisek Carbolet. He's played with all these guys. So I think he's got a good idea of what the NHL is like and how to adapt. So I think that might be a little bit of an overlooked signing in terms of puck movement from the back end.
I mean, that would be huge for the Habs if he can progress and, that offensive defenseman, that would be huge for them to get somebody like that, especially under the radar and, have teams start to have to work for him like, oh, shit, this guy's coming in. We weren't ready for this.
Yeah, nobody's going to kind of see it coming maybe. And, of course, I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't pan out. But, if he ends up adapting well and fitting in, then it could be a really underrated signing. He's coming in on an entry-level contract, so you really can't argue with cheap offense.
Oh, for sure. And what do you think? He'll probably make the bottom pairing?
Probably not to start the season. I imagine he'd probably start in the AHL to start in Laval.
Okay.
The top six looks like it's pretty much set. You got Carl Alsner with Weber. You got Jordy Ben, Jeff Petrie, Dave Schlemko. I think Brandon Davidson's probably going to take that sixth spot.
Okay.
He looked pretty good towards the end of the last year.
I'm glad you mentioned Ben. I totally forgot. And I loved when he got traded over there by the deadline last season. I think he's on the cusp of having a really good fucking year. I think he's right there. I love the way he plays the game, and if he kept the beard, more thumbs up for him. I expect him to have a pretty huge year.
Did he lose the beard? Did he shave it? Or
no, I hope he doesn't.
Yeah, me too. That's a beauty. But, I think you're right. I think he's looking at a good year coming up. Greg Patterin was gone no matter what. He was clearly not happy with the organization. So to get something for nothing is good in any scenario. But Ben came in and played great at the end of the season. He worked his way into the top four. I think he can keep that up this year. I don't think he's much of an offensive guy, but you never know. He could have that opportunity. I
think it's okay though if he isn't.
Yeah, of course. He plays a great defensive game. He's sound. He's always in good position. He's got a great stick. He plays with a lot of grit, so I think that's really good for the Canadiens' back end.
Yeah, I was going to say he's not a pussy. Like that helps out a lot. He's not afraid to pump the chest a little bit and chirp and let him know. So that's always good to have on there.
Yeah. I mean, when you got a guy like Carey Price in your net, you're always going to have people trying to get at him, get in his face, and kind of piss him off. So
of course,
I really like having guys like Alsner, Weber, Ben, Schlemko who can come in and say, I don't think so, back up and make Price's job that much easier.
I do enjoy though when Carey has to take care of it on his own too. I always love watching him give blocker shots to dudes because that just cracks me up. He doesn't give a fuck sometimes.
No, he doesn't give a shit. He's got no problem backing down, and I think one of my favorite Carey Price moments has to be. I don't know if it was this past season or it might have been the season before, but they were playing the Rangers, and I don't remember who dumped it in, but it was coming around the corner, and Chris Kreider's coming around after it, and then Price just steps out, doesn't even bother with the puck, and just lays Kreider out, stares him down. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, he gets some beautiful moments in. I forget what game it was last season. He had the dude, bent him over and just started blocker shotting right straight to the kidneys, man. It was awesome. Yeah,
I remember that. I think that was in the playoffs, but I don't remember. But that was glorious too.
Oh, yeah.
He's got no problem standing up for himself either. But if it comes down to it, but like I said, with these guys in front of him, I don't think it's going to get to that this year.
Good. Yeah, he's probably happy too. So he gets the NHL Network's top goalie for this upcoming season over Holtby and Brovowski. And you'd have to be mad to not agree. He, when healthy, is nigh unstoppable. I mean, the dude is something to watch play the net. He's a freak.
Yeah, he's some kind of machine or alien or something. I don't know. But, I think NHL Network nailed it on the head. A lot of guys have been talking about Holtby and Bobrovsky, the two recent Vezina winners. And,
I was pissed at first just because I'm a Blue Jackets fan. So it was just some I was just salty about it. But then when I gave it a couple days and I watched it again and read over it, and I was like, well, fuck, they're right.
Don't get me wrong. I think Sergei Bobrovsky is an excellent goaltender. He's definitely one of my top 3 in the league. This year he was completely unstoppable. He made Price look like a little girl,
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, for me, it's more than just one season at a time. You look at Price, and nobody is as consistent as Price. And if you take Price away from Montreal, that team is looking pretty bad. But you take Bobrovsky out of Columbus, and Columbus has a really solid defense core, really young defense core with Jones, Savard, Johnson, and then so much scoring up front with all these young kids. So
yeah.
I think Columbus stands a better chance without Bobrovsky than Montreal does without Price.
Oh yeah, I would much rather have Korpisalo play than Montoya. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
For sure. And then
Montoya holds his own. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, there's a reason he's played for X number of teams in X number of years.
Yeah. And Bob's got to start. They got to win a playoff series for him to be mentioned as the number one going into the season. I think too. They got some shitty luck this year too, right? They drew Pittsburgh in the first round. Oh, fuck, dude! We've been in the playoffs 3 times, and it's the Red Wings, Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh. There's no fucking chance.
Yeah, you guys, you get really screwed with your playoff draws.
It's sickening. The best shot they have is making a wild card.
Yeah, right. And then you're not playing these monsters.
Yeah, try to not play in the Metro as much as possible.
Yeah, good luck with that, though. I mean,
shit.
That division is unbelievable.
Oh, it's ridiculous, dude. And then Emelin, his departure, I don't think that's a big deal, dude. I think I'm not a big Emelin fan. What's your take on his departure?
I'm right there with you. I mean, he's not really a liability, but he's basically an older, slower Carl Alsner, and at $4.1 million, that's tough to see on your payroll. So, I really thought that Vegas was going to take either Brandon Davidson or Charles Hudon. So whenever I saw them go with Emelin, I was like, well, fuck yeah, take this $4.1 million, and we'll keep our 2 young guys. That's great.
He seemed to be more of just an instigator than anything. He would just kind of piss teams off, and then the rest of the teams having to deal with Emelin's bullshit.
Yeah, and then it kind of throws the rest of the team off a little.
For sure.
It seemed his bread and butter was throwing hits, and I mean, I love a good hockey hit just as much as the next guy. But I mean, to pay a guy over $4 million and have him playing on your third pairing, it doesn't seem to make too much sense. And he's had some knee injuries and stuff, so hard hitting NHL defenseman over 30 with knee injury history, it's a recipe for disaster. So
yeah, man. All right, dude. We're getting into it. What do you think is going to happen with the Habs this year? My prediction is obvious. With Carey Price, you're going to the playoffs. After that, I don't really know what happens with them. What do you predict for this team for this upcoming season?
Again, I think you nailed it. It all depends on Price. If Price goes down with an injury, I mean, pretty much it for the season, I think.
Yeah, that'd be so bad.
If he stays healthy, and the guys we talked about before, like Drouin and Galchenyuk and Alsner, and those guys bring their best, I think they can make a deep run. But I mean, the Atlantic Division is so wide open. It could really go. It could really go either way. I mean, as much as it really burns me and hurts my soul to say this, I got to watch out for Toronto this year.
Yep.
I think they're going to make a good push for, maybe even first in the Atlantic, and then, Boston. You can never count Boston out with.
And you'd expect Tampa to be better this season too.
Tampa, yeah, of course, with healthy Stamkos, makes a huge difference.
For sure.
I think Vasilevsky taking over with the number one full time is going to be big for them as well. So yeah, I mean, getting to the playoffs could be just as much of a challenge as getting through the playoffs. But it's like you said, if Price is on his game, I would expect probably 2-3 in the division.
Yeah, I agree. I foresee a top 3 finish for this team.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, Ottawa. You got to watch out for Ottawa too. If teams adapt to Guy Boucher's 1-3-1 style, they might be in trouble. But if they can play that effectively, like they did in the playoffs, I mean, they can make a push. Like I said, Toronto. I think it's either going to be Toronto or Tampa in that first spot.
Yeah.
And then whoever doesn't get the first spot, maybe second spot or third, and then round out with Montreal. But again, the Atlantic is wide open. I mean, even the Panthers, like Florida looks pretty good this year too.
No way, dude. No way.
I think they had some injuries last year that really hurt them. They had Bukestad out for a long time. They had Huberdeau go down for a while. Those are two of their top guys, and they go down with injuries. I mean, I think Huberdeau's potential 30-35 goal scorer, if he can stay healthy, then that's going to contribute a lot to their offense. I like Aaron Ekblad a lot.
Yeah, Ekblad's a stud.
I think James Reimer's not really getting a fair shake in Florida. Him and Luongo make a nice tandem there, and Reimer seems to always be underrated. So I wouldn't count Florida out of the playoff hunt. I wouldn't maybe expect them in a
Huberdeau can score 150 points, and they're still going to be second to dead last.
Well, they didn't re-sign Yager, so I mean that's probably what's going to be their downfall.
I've asked a few of the other people I've had cover team. Is he going to get a job? I'm here in Calgary now.
Yeah, it seems like every other week Yager's associated with some other team. You can't expect to go into training camp and him not have a job. I mean, the guy, he led the team in scoring last year, did he not?
Right, he's Jaromir Jagr.
He's still got it. So I think it's more teams are trying to work out what their team is going to look like and see if they've got a spot for him, because you can't bring in a guy like Jagr and throw him in your fourth line or third line or something like that. You got to have a nice maybe second line spot for him with minimal minutes. So I think maybe
at this point they're probably going to be like, "Listen, bud, you're playing on the third line." That's just,
It's possible, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You have to look at other teams who are maybe hurting for offense a little bit, like maybe Detroit. Obviously, they have a lot of cap issues.
Yeah.
Even Edmonton wouldn't be too bad of a spot. They've got a lot of young kids that could use some veteran leadership and extra little bit of scoring.
Do the Islanders have the room? I mean, Tavares could use a buddy.
Yeah, Tavares. Yeah,
throw him on the fucking top line. Let's go.
Yeah, they've got the spot for him, right? But they're right up near the cap too. I think it's just a little under $3 million for the Islanders. But yeah, I mean, there's got to be a spot in the NHL for Jaromir Jagr. Just it doesn't seem right after everything.
Yeah, you can't let it. Someone's got to sign him. Somebody. Don't let him go back to the KHL.
No, I mean, everybody's talking about Vegas too, and I think that would be really great. He's such a character, Jaromir Jagr, and it'd be great to kind of help all their team come together, give them an identity.
Right. Now, the word on the street is my buddy, the gatekeeper of Chicago Blackhawks shoutcast, he had mentioned that Jagr has a huge gambling problem. So he doesn't want to go to Vegas because of his issues. I mean, this is all hearsay, so I don't really know, but that's why he's kind of avoiding Vegas like the plague.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, obviously, I don't know much about the guy personally, of course, but from what I've seen, he's he's not married or anything. He doesn't have any kids. He lives the bachelor life. So
yeah,
I can totally see that, and that's probably a wise choice on his part.
For sure, he'll probably go out there, get into human trafficking, and we'll never see him again.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we both agree this team's going to the playoffs as long as Carey Price plays.
Of course.
Who are your 3 stars for the upcoming season for the Habs this season?
The obvious choice, number 1, is Carey Price.
Oh.
Number 2, ever underrated Max Pacioretty. This is a guy, this guy's scored 30 goals or more in the last 5 out of the last 6 seasons.
He always scores 30 goals, always.
Always. And people talk about him like he's garbage, I look at the top goal scorers since the lockout season in 2012, and Pacioretty's top 5. He's got more goals than guys like Tavares and Sergei, Ben, and Tarasenko. And, he's outscoring these guys. He makes $4.5 million, and people, I was talking to a guy today, we don't need Pacioretty. He doesn't back check. All he does is stand and wait for a shot. He doesn't pass to teammates and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but, how do you think Alex Ovechkin makes a living? You think Ovechkin back checks? You think Ovechkin passes to teammates? No, man. He stands at the top of the circle and blasts them home. That's the same as Pacioretty. So I think Pacioretty is absolutely key to Montreal's success. If it weren't for Price, Pacioretty would be number 1 up there. And then, number 3, got to go with Jonathan Drouin.
Did you have? Did you have? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you see? I think it was on TSN. It was Drouin in Montreal, like right after he got traded, and he had they were asking Canadiens questions, and he's like, they're doing flashcards of like Canadiens players, and he's like holding up himself playing, and they're like, he's like, do you know who this is? And like all the clips they showed, people had no idea who he was. It was fucking hilarious. Yeah,
I did see that. I honestly don't it doesn't really make any sense to me. I can't really figure that out. I mean, Montreal is like hockey hub, People live, eat, breathe Montreal Canadiens, and then this guy comes in. It's one of the biggest trades they've made in the last decade, and then nobody knows what he looks like or who he played for or anything. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. If you walked up to me on the street and said, "Hey, do you know who this guy is?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's you, motherfucker."
Yeah, you're holding the flashcard, dickhead. I can see it right now. Like,
exactly.
He must have just caught
a picture of you. Like.
It was probably like some kind of like Furby convention they were outside of, like people that just would not know hockey or something. They caught him off guard and like, "Oh, we'll go to this knitting convention and ask these people." But it made for good TV at least.
Yeah, it was probably geared towards that. It's summertime, so they got really not much going on. Their social media team needs to get some stuff out there.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't be surprised at all if he leads this team and goals this season. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like him. I think he's going to score 30+, but for me, I think this is the year Pacioretty breaks 40. He's consistently close. It's 35, it's 37, 39 2 years ago, and dropped down a little bit this year. But I think this is the year that Pacioretty breaks that 40 mark. I think it still remains to be seen if Drouin is a 40-goal guy.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot depends on who Pacioretty's playing with.
Yeah.
If one of Donnell or Galchenyuk get hurt and he's stuck playing with Thomas Plekanec, well, you could probably count 25 goals for Pacioretty.
I don't think there's anybody in the league that scores as many goals as he does, as quiet as he does. Like next thing you know, you looked up like, oh, Pacioretty had 37 goals this year. What the hell? Like he just does his job very well and just does it. And I think that's why people are on the fence with him, like, oh, we don't need him or whatever, because he's not really. Like a huge personality, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he keeps quiet. He's not one of these flashy, outspoken PK Subban type dudes. But I mean, and that's another thing is, how a guy like that goes kind of underrated in Montreal is kind of beyond me,
Right? Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, it seems consistently around the league, people talk about goal scoring. They talk about, Kane, Ovechkin, Ben, Tarasenko, and these guys. And then, Pacioretty's kind of slipped in at the end. But for a guy that outscores a lot of these guys the last couple of years, it almost seems unfair.
Well, I guess what he's going to have to do is score 40 and shove it right up their ass, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Kavan, dude, this has been great. I thank you very much. You're writing for the HockeyWriters.com, right?
That's correct, yeah.
So they can go check out your columns there. And then on Twitter, your name is?
At Kavan Young, THW.
All right, my man. Thank you so much, buddy. Oh, wait.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I do have to ask you, on later tonight, I'm having Mark Alfred from the Black and Gold podcast. Big Boston Bruins. You got any words for the Bruins fans? I know you guys got a little bit of a rivalry there.
Hey man, as a Habs fan, I gotta take as many shots at Boston as I can. But as an NHL fan, I gotta stay civil.
You heard it. He said
the Bruins.
You heard him. He said, "Fuck you, Boston."
I wasn't gonna say it, but it's how it is.
Everybody knows what you're thinking, buddy. Hey, thanks.
I try and be civil and stay neutral, but every time I see a Boston Bruins logo, I kind of throw up in my mouth a little bit. So
that's all I needed was that, dude. Hey, thanks again, Kavan, man. You're the man.
Yeah, thank you, man. My pleasure.
All right, party on, bud.
Cheers.
All right, that was Kavan Young from the HockeyWriters.com coming on to cover the Montreal Canadiens for me. Merci, Kavan. Le français, s'il vous plaît. Un bonbon au chocolat. Oh, you said you want to feel better? You want to stop feeling like shit? Go to Lucid Float Spas in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Would you? Please? For me? You will feel better, I guarantee it. Go see Chad. He'll hook you up. Chad massaged my hands. And it was a couple years ago. I was a welder by trade. And my hands were dog shit. Now they're not. Because of Chad at Lucid Float Spas, Mount Vernon, Ohio. Go. Tell him the biscuit sent you. Maybe he'll show you his dick. I hope he doesn't, because that's probably illegal. Go follow us on Twitter, The Biscuit Pod. Instagram, _biscuit_podcast. We're on iTunes. We are on Stitcher Radio. What else are we on? Google Play Music. Buzzsprout.com. #1 hockey podcast. That's us. Do me a favor. Tomorrow, when you're thinking about being a pussy, don't. Freedom. Hockey. The biscuit.